Hi, it's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, and today I'm going to be talking to you about premolar extraction cases. And if you've watched most of my videos, you know I'm pretty much anti-premolar extraction. Under most circumstances, it's kind of a last resort. And I don't really have any pictures for you because I really haven't done a case like 15 years that's a premolar extraction. So of course, I didn't keep those. So I'm just going off a type and not. And occasionally I work with a doctor who needs to do one. Um, just special circumstances. So for me, the way I see it, you got to give the patient a fighting chance not to do one, right? So if they're still growing, there really is no reason to be doing premolar extractions because you should be able to expand the arches, create space, develop the arches, distalize, all kind of cool things that you can do. Grow mandibles, et cetera, you know? But let's say, we're going to hypothetically say that we have a patient who's 35, maybe the patient doesn't have an awful lot of bone or bone thickness around here, so we really can't expand, we can't procline. We've taken a CBCT, we're kind of running out of options. Patient does not want to have jaw surgery, we've already ruled that out. Patient doesn't want anything invasive, really, TADS or anything like that, just wants a simple premolar extraction. So of course, that's the kind of circumstance where maybe you're going to do it. Now, of course, what you're going to do is really going to depend on the molar and the canine classification. In here, patient is kind of like half step class 2, okay? So a little bit class 2E. So I don't know if I'd actually do this premolar extraction pattern. Matter of fact, I probably wouldn't, but that's just the way the typodont is. So not all cases are alike. There's no cookie cutter approach. Every case has to be considered. Once you've made that decision individually, you may not always take out 4 buys. You might take out 3, you might take out 2, you might take out 1. It really depends on the classification, what's going on, the bite, and many other different things. But I'm just going to go over the mechanics once you do. So basically, the mechanics really don't change that much. Initially, you're going to level and align. If you're taking out premolars because of crowding and not overjet, okay? So let's say it is a 4 buy. Then I'm going to take out the premolars first. And then, because it makes more sense, right? Otherwise, you'd be fixing the crowding forward and possibly throwing the roots through the plate, compromising the biologic width and stuff like that. So like in this case, so let's say that in this case, I'm going to hypothetically say this case was a complete socked-in class 1 case, then yeah, you would take out 4 buys. And just as you align, the teeth will start to kind of go into the places, into the spaces, right? So you're maybe in 14 niti here. No, I'm not going to engage this and this because there's no place for them to go anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and engage the posterior teeth, the canines. Maybe, you know, I'd start, once we move up to the little heavier wires, some very, very light retraction with some chain here. Normally, I don't like to do power chain on light wires like this. I definitely would not be doing open coil spring on a 14 niti. You can see it's here, just as an example. But I more put it here so you can see the bowing that occurs when you try to do open coil spring on a light niti. I do not. I only do open coil spring on heavier wires like 1725 and above. Otherwise, you're going to get some crazy bowing, and you could definitely throw this root through the plate. So you're going to work your way up, and then once you're in a heavier wire, you can start the retraction. In most cases, should be pretty easy to retract the canines and get them straight, and then use some power chains. Sometimes you're going to have to add some elastics to help to direct the anchorage one way or another. Every case is different, so can't really give a cookie cutter approach in that case. You just have to reevaluate it. You won't necessarily know at the beginning of a treatment plan. A lot of times people ask me, hey, can you give me exact wires, exact when I use chain, exact when I use elastics? No, cannot, because we're not going to know how they're going to respond. So every month you need to check in, and things might change a little bit. But you just come with a general plan, which is to level and align, right? Use your niti wires, go up your sequence, your 14, 16, 18, reevaluate, make sure you're super happy with the bracket width, with the bracket positioning, take a progress pano, make sure you're happy with the roots and everything like that, and then move on to your rectangular wires, your space closure, your open coils as needed. Now in this case, of course, if you're doing open coils here, let's say hypothetically we were in 1825, we were doing open coils for the upper 2s there. Once you get space, then you're going to have to go back to a leveling niti to engage them. And then you're going to have to work your way back up to get the torque and to root upright these teeth, which is going to take a little bit of time, right? So that's just basically how we're going to do it. Okay, so that's for your 4-by extraction. Let's say, for example, you're doing just upper bis. Let's say it's an overjet case, okay? Let's say this patient, done growing, 30, has 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters of overjet. Patient has declined ortho referral. Patient has declined oral surgery. Patient has declined anything like that. They just want their upper bis out, and they're fine with their profile flattening. They don't have any history of OSA, because of course we know that that's going to decrease the tongue space. This is what they want. This is what you want to do. Fine. Okay. So let's say that the molars were full step class 2, which we're not here, and we have that 10 millimeters of overjet or whatever. Okay. So we'd still do the same thing. We'd work our way up the NiTi wires. You'd probably want to go ahead and take out the bis, or, you know, if there's no crowding, maybe you want to level in line and wait till you get to the point where you can get into a heavy wire and start retracting. But then you'll go ahead and get your heavy wire in, and you'll start retracting the canines. Now, if you need max anchorage, you're going to have to, you can't just chain, you know, canine to molar, because the molar is going to move forward as you pull the canine back. So you need to think about what type of anchorage you're going to need. The type of anchorage and the strength of your anchorage is really going to depend on how much anchorage you need. So everyone's different. A lot of times, some people will use like an extraoral headgear. I don't do that because I think that's kind of a poor patient experience. But I do like to use like a Nance or a TPA. It goes on the roof of the mouth as anchorage. That's really great with buccal tubes, and you can just tie to that. The other way that you can do it is something called, I call it lace back or long tie, which I know they kind of teach you. If you've ever taken 6-month smiles, they do teach that. And I do have a video about that I can send you. But if you search within my YouTube channel, long tie, it'll come up. So, and we go over how to long tie to get like a segment. But basically, in a nutshell, let's do it on this one. Okay. So let's say this tooth is gone. Okay. Whoop. Okay. The first premolar is gone. And we've got brackets on all these 3, right? Okay. And what we're going to do is we're just going to under tie those 3 teeth together with a long stainless steel tie, you know, a lig tie. They come, you tie them, do a couple twists in between, and you're basically bracing them all together. So now we have a unit of 3 versus that canine. Well, if you play tug of war and you've got 3 bigger teeth pulling a canine, of course, the canine's going to lose, right? Or in this case, the canine's going to win, because that way this unit of 3 won't move forward. Because as you try to close a space, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So if we just chained, you'd be slipping anchorage like crazy. These teeth would move forward as well as this tooth moving back, which might be what you want. But if you need max anchorage, if you have a gigantic overjet, you can't do that because you will just slip too much anchorage. So you need to pit those 3 against that 1, which is why you need to tie them together or brace them. Or you can do some type of internal anchorage like a Nance or a TPA, which is kind of, I think, way easier. But anyways, so that's how you do that. All right, hopefully that helped, but that's just a really generic explanation of anchorage and closing extraction spaces. All right, take care.